Welcome everybody, day 4, business with Corona, Corona with business. Yes, and
Hey
here I am
everyone.
on. I'm on my rooftop because ek to ye कि it's great weather out here, and finally spring has arrived to some extent. And secondly, it's noisy inside because everyone's on the phone, on conference calls. Somebody's playing games, somebody's on classes. I could not find a corner to do the call. So here we are,
Yeah, no,
work
it
from.
looks like a lovely day, and amazingly enough, we're having some very nice weather in Karachi as well. So I think we're all in a good place from a weather perspective.
Yeah, Alhamdulillah. Thank Allah for the blessings, right?
Yeah,
Okay. Now the topic of the day is work from home and its benefits and detractions, right?
yeah,
So how are you coping?
it's interesting. We have a fairly robust and energetic team at the company that I work at. So around 20 odd people. And there's two aspects to the day that we're trying to create for them. Everyone's working from home, um, trying to maintain some level of discipline. Um, it's very difficult to impose that externally. So trying to encourage, especially the young people, to discipline themselves and to manage their own time, and focus on deliverables rather than on the number of hours they're spending in a day. And I think honestly, this is going to be the biggest shift in the mindset of work in the world after Corona. That people will need to focus more on deliverables rather than on a fixed amount of time. But anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. The other challenge at home is there's so many things to do at home, right? So um, you know, AC repairman shows up, you have to kind of stop what you're doing and deal with him, and then there's a water problem, or there's a some other issue where you're running up and down 2 flights of stairs. It is challenging, and so you have to carve out time to do the tactical stuff. But the fun part is that then at 7:30 in the evening, because everyone started a little bit later than normal, you can actually have a brainstorming session with 20 people who want to be in that brainstorming session. They want to be there because they want to share ideas, they want to learn, they want to work on strategy or a communication idea or whatever it is. And they're there because they want to be there. And that session could be 20 minutes, it could be an hour and a half. But what comes out of it is a shared sense of community that I think I'm missing from being able to walk into an office with 20, 25 people and just high five people and say, hey, how's it going, great work. That shared sense of community comes out in these online brainstorming sessions. So I think it's really important to maintain that somehow. So yeah, that's my experience here. I know that in Pakistan generally there's a mixed experience with working from home. There's a level of discomfort between the employer and the employee. Some employees are not comfortable working from home. They actually prefer working at the office because there's a structure, there's a desk, there's tea that's delivered to the desk, and there's a peon, and there's a rider, and
Yeah,
there's a support system. And at home, you're the support system.
yeah,
And
yeah.
employers are very uncomfortable as well.
So I was discussing with our father, Mr. Abedin, yesterday about how he's worked from home for the past 30, 35, 40 years, I guess, for a long time. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, yeah.
And couple of things that he said which made sense, but something that at least personally I don't follow. So he says that, and I saw this myself. He would get up every morning, get dressed, and then go and sit in his home office. So he maintained that discipline. And honestly, I don't do that. I get dressed when I feel like it, and in some days, I don't even you know bother. It's not necessary. It's not necessary, and it's just one of those things. It's a cultural thing, I guess, between me and him. He always maintained a specific office time.
Hmm.
I don't. I start my day when the calls start, and my day goes on. There's no end to it. But in the middle, I'll sneak out. I'll go and do an hour here, an hour there. I'll spend time with the kids. I'll watch a film, have lunch, and then be back at work. So I think for me, it's a very different cultural experience from what I observed with our father, right?
Well, I have
Uh,
to tell you, there's a gentleman by the name of Chris Nealand, someone who I've recently started following on LinkedIn. He runs something called The Gathering in Canada.
okay.
You know, very senior executive, brand and marketing expert. And he's been working from home for the last 10 days, and he says, I've come to a realization that I've spent a small fortune on business clothes over the last 30 years, and I'm actually much more comfortable wearing the same slacks and the same hoodie for the last 1 week.
Yeah. So you're absolutely right, and this for me personally. I mean, I've been an anti-corporate person, as you know, for a long time. So for me, this has been one of my pet peeves with working in a so-called office. This idea that you have to maintain your look, and people spend a lot of money in maintaining that look, and a lot of the people who spend more money get promoted. So there is a direct
Yeah.
link between getting promoted and the way you look. This is not just for the women; this is for the men as well. So
Hmm.
when it comes to a con call, I think a couple of things have happened which I really like. You remember that guy on BBC last year whose child walked in and there was this big scene about, oh
Yeah,
my God,
yeah,
he just ruined the broadcast. That is now the norm. Everyone's children comes into every conference call. It's just the norm. It's like accepted. You can hear
yeah,
the children in the background. You're saying, you know what, can you go on mute for a second? And that's it. We
yeah,
move on from there. We
yeah. I
just move
mean,
on. And
there's a video of an Italian or Portuguese girl talking, and her boyfriend walks into the
oh yeah,
frame
yeah, I saw
in his
that one.
in his underwear. And then
Uh-huh.
he completely freaks out and runs into a wall, and then runs backwards, flailing, or arms flailing all over this is
Yeah,
just
yeah,
what
yeah.
it is. It is what it is. I think it humanizes everyone.
It does. It does, and that's so important because we create these weird personas when we go to office, right? That I have to be all
Mm.
cool and I have to be like this or that and whatever rubbish. We're all humans. We all have lives. We all have homes. We exist within a social setting, and where there are downsides to that, there are definite upsides. That now at least we've broken those barriers and those I have to look a certain way to do a certain job kind of garbage that exists out there in the corporate world. So that's I think that's my two bits about it. One
Well,
thing I would
well,
like to say though.
yeah.
Yeah, go ahead. No, you go ahead first.
I just wanted to say there are some industries where I think dressing the part still remains important, especially those industries where interpersonal trust is involved. So, in Pakistan, for example, you would not trust a banker who was wearing slacks or who was wearing lowers and a t-shirt if he was sitting in a bank. Similarly, you might not trust a doctor who was dressed like a bum. Do you know what I mean? It's just that I don't think Pakistan has evolved to the point where we look beyond people's clothes to who they actually are and what they're actually trying to do. I think Canada may have maybe further up that evolutionary scale, but even so, I mean, Mr. Trudeau dresses down, but even his dressing down is at a certain level.
Oh yeah, of
You
course, of
expect,
course.
yeah.
Of course. No, I'll
So,
give you that. And if you remember a teacher who taught us at IBA, Dr. Mateen Khan, he used to say something and that
mhm.
stuck with me for the longest time. He used to say, that person is a marketing man. I'm using his inflection the way he used to say it. Now you are a marketing
Marketing,
man. Right,
yes,
and that stayed with me because there is a certain look of a marketing man. There is a look of someone who you can trust and who you can reach out to across the aisle and say hello to. And that's
yeah.
really important, and that won't change. That's human nature. But there are certain power plays that people do through dressing. I think that that will change, and that should change, in my opinion. Power play is a different game, but dressing nicely and being the part is a different thing altogether. I may reject that, and I may reject the corporate life, but that's my choice. That's my choice
Yeah,
as
no,
a
no,
human.
yeah, no, I agree. I agree.
Okay, so on to the second topic because we're almost at 10 minutes. Wow, that was quick. Um, yeah. So second topic is one industry which a couple of industries which are not doing very well with the current crisis, and one of them is, in my opinion, schools. Because schools just do not like the idea of going online. They just love the traditional model of command and control, with the whole discipline structure, and I'm in charge, and don't mess with me, and I'm the teacher. I don't want to tell anyone what's going on in my class. I decide. I'm the king.
Yeah.
Right? And in a schooling system like in Canada, where external grading is not even a thing, everything is school grades. So, um, so in a situation like this, I can just imagine the teachers not liking it one bit. And I can
Mm.
imagine in places like Pakistan also, teachers feeling a loss of control because they're not sure what the future holds for them.
Yeah. So there are a couple of people that I know
And I'll tell
personally.
you what. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, so there are a couple of people that I know who've actually been homeschooling their kids for the past several years, and the results that they have managed to achieve in terms of what the kids have accomplished at very young ages have been absolutely outstanding. One gentleman has two children. I think they're like 12 and 9, and they've actually lectured at uh, at an Ivy League school on how to code, on how to
Right.
teach coding for children. Another gentleman has a 12 or 13-year-old who is now studying at a college level because they're studying subjects that they really want to study, they're passionate about, they love, and they're not sure that they'll ever get a degree. What they would do is probably prepare their kids for entrepreneurship and just launch them in real life with a real life not a traditional job but a passion, a vocation, a hobby that they convert into something that they can make a living out of.
Yeah, so that's the longer term trend of the disruption of the whole idea of certification, right? But right
Mm,
now, what we're seeing is perhaps an immediate disruption of the idea of actually going somewhere to get educated, right? The idea that you have to get
yeah.
up in the morning and go somewhere, and that's the same work from home disruption that we're seeing in work. We're definitely seeing it in schools. But one thing that I will say though, that the internet disrupts things, and then there's no going back. So when you realize that your teacher was really incompetent, and that schools
Or
basically,
a sadist, or a
right,
sadist.
right, sadist, incompetent, and really weird people do teach, and throughout the world. And when you realize that there are better ways of doing this, where you don't have to subject your child to sadists, incompetent people who are just wasting your time and money, and that
Yeah.
that competent people and nice people are available to teach all around the world, doesn't that just change the whole setup of command and control that schools operate in? And any child with a weird mind, like the one that I had when I was in school, and the school and I were clashing every single day, and I can just imagine a world where that doesn't need to happen, because you can find a good soft environment for children with different mindsets and different learning habits that don't fit into the command and control pattern of established schooling.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Another area that I think there's a great deal of discomfort with the WFH model is what we call the state-owned companies in Pakistan. So there are a few enlightened company owners out there that they get it. They've been educated abroad, or they have children who've been educated abroad, and they've come back with a remote working mindset. But the majority of them are used to having peons at
Mm.
their fingertips, and the lack of physical presence of these people makes the ownership extremely uncertain, paranoid, unhappy with what's going on, and so that manifests itself in weird logging mechanisms. They start tracking computers, and they want to know how many tasks you've accomplished. And for me, it's not about the number of tasks you're accomplishing; it's what value you're adding to the organization. So you could do one big thing in a month and add more value than someone who did 1,000, minnow-sized tasks. That is the mindset that needs to change, and I think I think that level of discomfort is something that these people will just have to build a bridge and get over, because this is just the new reality.
Yeah, we just need to be kinder to each other, I think, especially in times like these. We just need to be nicer. We need to
Mm,
look deeper inside and find space for people slacking off. It's okay. It's all right. A lot of the new writing on blogs on HR in this crisis time is about it's okay to slack off. It's a big disruption. Everyone is worried. And when you're tense and worried and stressed with what's going to come next month, the unemployment rates are going through the roof all over the world. There is an economic crash coming, and people are worried that, okay, so I'm working from home today, will I even have a job tomorrow? Will I get a salary in the next month? These are
yeah.
realities. There's no point in skirting this. So,
Mm,
and in Pakistan things might be a little different, but I'll tell you what, the export orders are drying up. There is very
yeah.
little demand for a number of industries coming in throughout the world. So, uh, guys, this is treat this as a way to reflect, think, recharge, learn something new, because no one can tell what's coming in the next months. And I don't want to sound alarmist and negative about it, but this is real.
Yeah, we're living a almost apocalyptic version of planet Earth. And on a tiny version of that, what is happening is that those of us who do have jobs, those of us who do have, gainful employment of sorts, we are becoming absolutely addicted, even more addicted than before, to our cell phones.
Hmm.
Because everything is on demand. You get a WhatsApp that says, "Hey, can you get on a call with me in the next 3 minutes?" And you're like, "Okay, actually, I'm in the middle of having lunch with my family, because
Yeah.
working from home." But you say, "Okay, fine." You quickly finish what you're doing, and you jump on a call that lasts maybe an hour, and then you go back, and your family's upset. You're having to deal with that, and then at the same time, you are online pretty much 24. You wake up in the morning, the first thing you're doing is checking your phone to see, oh my God, there's like 300 WhatsApp messages that I need to quickly get through.
Yeah.
And you haven't fully woken up yet. And before you go to bed, the last thing you do is check again. Can you make sure nothing is, there's no balls falling through the cracks, there's
Yeah.
nothing getting missed. So the level of stress, the level of continuous engagement with this screen is just, I think it's going to get much worse before somehow society allows us to balance the scales a little bit.
Yeah, man. So these are the realities. So I think we just need to be nicer to each other, and just accept that some balls will get dropped, and just cover for each other, and be there for the team. I think that's really important at this stage.
Yeah, I think the model of the brilliant asshole, the guy who used to he used to pluck the stars from the skies for the owner of the company, but was such a douche when he was doing it. I've just got no tolerance for that brilliant asshole anymore. You know what? Be brilliant on your own time. Don't screw the morale of the team. Don't be a dick. Don't be that guy. It's not like who are you trying to impress by behaving like that?
Yeah. No, I think we should end it at that note. I like that thing. In fact, you should title this talk, "Don't Be the Brilliant Asshole." Might get us a few more clicks as well. And on that note,
Sure.
I think we'll take leave. Thank you.
All right, good one. Talk
All
to you
right. Thank
tomorrow.
you.
Allah Hafiz. Be
Inshallah. Allah
safe.
Hafiz.